Hey y'all, it's your host Tori Kruse. Welcome to Talk Y'all to Me, your red carpet insider, your friend behind the mic, and the girl behind the scenes connecting fans, artists, and stories that matter. Most of all, a lover of real, honest conversations. Here on Talk Y'all to Me, we pull back the curtain with country artists, industry insiders, faith-forward creators, and everyday leaders, talking about what it really takes to show up, lead with heart, and stay true to you. So whether you're figuring it out, think you've already got it figured out, or if you're just here to learn from the best and keep a pulse on the country scene, this is your spot. So lean in, turn it up, and let's talk, y'all. Hey y'all, it's Talk Y'all to Me, and I'm Tori Kruse. I'm sitting here with an amazing country artist right here in the heart of Music City in Nashville, Tennessee. We're so excited. I found this country artist about a couple years ago, and I listened to this song, and I was like, what in the world? Who is this man? He's incredible, and just completely fell in love with his music and his songs, and his voice is so unique. He's got a lot of things coming up here, and actually today, he just released his new single, Bible in a House Fire. Adam Sanders, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here.
How's it going? Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. I'm so stoked. We're finally sitting down, having this conversation on your release day of Bible in a House Fire. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we've kind of been talking back and forth for several months now about trying to get together, and this is a pretty good time, and we've got some things we can talk about today, and so it feels good to be here.
We have some momentum now.
Yes.
We have the single. You are just about ready to, you already filmed The Road on CBS. That's coming out here in a couple days, and you've been busy, but I want to first start with Bible in a House Fire, because today, October 17th, it just came out. I was sitting, this morning drinking some coffee, and I was like, all right, I'm going to read these lyrics. I'm going to listen to this song. And it really hit me. It's a really, really amazing song. And it really, truly made me want to grab my Bible and just be like, thank you, Jesus, for the hard times. And,
wow.
and, it's really incredible, but I want to hear from you and your heart behind writing this song.
Yeah. I remember getting the idea for this song. I was in a rental car, headed to the St. Louis airport, and listened to a podcast or something, and I remember looking just kind of over in this field, and I remember seeing a double-wide trailer that had been in a house fire, and outside in the yard was a swing set. There was toys scattered all over in the yard, and for whatever reason, as I'm driving by, that image just hit me pretty hard. I grew up in a double-wide trailer in North Central Florida my whole life, and my mind immediately went to man, how devastating that must be to be in a house fire. And from the looks of things, there were kids that lived in this house, and how devastating for them. And then my mind sort of shifted to sometimes we see on Instagram or the news or whatever where there's house fires or business fires, and a lot of times they'll show images of a Bible that had been through a fire, and it is the only thing that is untouched. Everything else is burnt to a crisp around it, but for whatever reason, that Bible is still intact. And I thought, what a cool image that is. And then I thought, man, how do I combine those two thoughts and come up with the title Bible in a House Fire? And I was like, first, let me check and make sure nobody's written this. And didn't find anything. So decided to bring it into a co-write with two of my really good friends and two guys that I've written a lot of songs with, Jordan Walker and Bryce Long. And yeah, man, I just feel like we wrote that thing to the wall, and immediately was just something that I felt was different. Just the title itself is, kind of different, and it's one I'm really, really excited about. I've kind of joked, I posted a video the other day about, the song coming out, and every time an artist has a song coming out, they're kind of like, oh, this is one of my favorite songs I've ever recorded, and whatever, and sometimes I see that, and I'm like, is it really, or is it you're just trying to hype up the song? But I can honestly tell you that this song is very special to me. It is one of my favorites that I've ever recorded, and this is sort of the start, along with a couple other songs. It's the start of a tweaking of my brand, and is the first batch of music that I've put out in over a year and a half. And so it's something I've been working on for a really long time and just trying to get it right. And I feel like we have finally unlocked what I've been trying to take my music to for several years now, and I think that this song is a great representation of where I am and where we're going.
You mentioned Unlock. Describe that a little bit more because you've had over 200 million views as an independent artist. Like,
Yeah.
that's incredible. So, to a lot of people, they're probably like, it's unlocked.
Yeah. Yeah, 90s country has always been the roots of my music. I started singing when I was 2 or 3 years old. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. And I grew up on Alan Jackson and, the class of '89, that I like to say. But as I got a little older, the music that really inspired me was kind of the late '90s. And I've always felt like I have such a vast knowledge for '90s country, early 2000s country, and what fits my voice the best. And how I learned to sing was a lot of that late '90s, early 2000s stuff. And so I've always wanted to try to figure out a way to incorporate that era of music into my music and make it sort of feel when fans listen to this music, I want them to think, man, this reminds me of a certain time of music when it was structured a certain way, but it feels fresh and new. Mm-hmm. And, I've tried over the years to really unlock the sound of what that is. And I think we've gotten really close to it, along the way. But I think that this new batch of music is the first batch of music that I can sort of say, this is exactly what I had in my head. And I think it's being perceived really, really well. So all the way from the instrumentation to the structure of songs, melodies, melodic structure, all these things, I think there's reasons why, that early McGraw, early Chesney, Tracy Lawrence, Mark Wills stuff is so impactful and timeless. And I kind of looked at it from a very analytical standpoint of like, what makes that music different from today's music? And I think we've kind of unlocked, some elements of that.
When you mentioned the melody, it made me think, I'm like, you write a lot of songs, and I'm wondering what that is, that moment for you when you're like, okay, this is a song I need to record. This isn't a song I'm going to hand off to somebody else, because I can imagine that can be challenging to decide.
Yeah, I got my start as a songwriter, and, I moved to Nashville when I was 21, and just by happenstance, this is just fate and God's timing with all of this. When I was 12 years old, my uncle called me one day and he said he's actually in the music industry. He is a session musician, plays on all the albums, plays on all the, Cody Johnson and Zach Top, and he's Sam Hunt, anything you can think of. He's been on those big songs. And he called me one day and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about writing songs?" Because he knew that music was my thing, and I wanted to move to Nashville one day and try to chase this dream. And he planted the seed when I was 12 and said, "You should look into writing songs. That could be your way into the music industry one day." And so I hung up the phone. The next day, my dad helped me write my first song at 12 years old. Started writing in high school. Realized I had a knack for it. I was the guy that would go to high school parties on Friday and Saturday nights, and I'd bring my guitar. And at the end of the night, we'd be sitting around a bonfire, and I would play all my classmates and friends a song or two that I had written that week, and they would be like, "Oh my God, this is great," And so I really enjoyed singing my own music. So fast forward, I moved to Nashville when I was 21 in 2009. 2 years later, I got my first publishing deal. And songwriting...
Wait, hold on. Did I say that? Did I hear that correctly? 2 years and you got your first publishing deal?
2 years.
Is that like a record in Nashville?
No, I mean, I would like to think. I mean, it definitely was a faster process.
Yeah.
But I worked in construction with my dad for 2 years while I was going out to Tin Roof and winners and losers and networking and doing all those things, and continued that process. Got my first pub deal, and everything started to really happen pretty fast for me. My first two songs that were singles went to radio the same exact day.
Wow.
Which was nuts, and both of them became number one songs. One was Cole Swindell, Ain't Worth the Whiskey.
Yeah.
The other is Hell of a Night for Dustin Lynch. So I had a lot of success out of the gate really fast in songwriting. That sort of spilled over into my career. And so what I would say to that is it was important to me to establish a name in Nashville. And so those early years, giving those songs up to other artists was sort of an easier thought process because I needed to get my name out there.
Yeah.
If we think of it this way, even though I wrote Ain't Worth the Whiskey with Cole and our other buddy Josh Martin, if I was to have put that song out, the song does not probably have the success it has with Cole because Cole is in a position of having a record deal and he's on the radio. And so it was easy for me to say, you take the song, you can take it further than I can take it.
Yeah.
And the same with, a lot of the other ones. And so now I'm in a position where luckily I've got some things really kind of happening for me in my career. And so now I just look at it from a standpoint of if a song fits me and my brand, it's something that I want to sort of hang on to. But we write so many things that may not necessarily apply to me and my brand, and those songs are sort of free game, and it's like, hey, let's pitch them. And so my goal is to sort of be that double threat where I've got songs for myself, but I'm also writing for other artists. It's worked for guys like Hardy and Thomas Rhett, Cole Swindell. They have multiple number ones on other artists, but they also write their own music as well, or, a majority of that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the sweet spot, right? Is doing both. So going back to like when you first started here in Nashville, if there's a young artist listening now and just starting out in Nashville, give them a little hope, would you? Like, how did you start out, and how do you think you had so much success? I mean, your family was in it, but how do you think you had so much success right away?
Well, I think the game has changed from the days that when I first moved to Nashville. It was all about going out and finding your group and your crew. I like to compare it to when you first moved to Nashville, you are the freshman of, the music industry. And you just have to go out and network. This was back in the MySpace days, if you remember.
Oh,
MySpace.
I do, yeah.
And so how I basically made connections was through my music MySpace page and did what every young songwriter does is, hey, man, we should write sometime, and, sometimes that worked and sometimes it didn't. But I think it was all about identifying, if I look back at the times that worked versus it didn't, was it worked with guys and girls that were on the same level as me, that were trying to break into the business. It didn't necessarily work if I was to reach out to Michael Knox, Jason Aldean's producer, who is way above where I'm at in my career.
Yeah.
If you sort of cold email them, chances are it's not going to correlate.
Yeah.
You're not on that same class of them. And so for me, going out networking, finding my crew, becoming friends first with them. I always took it from a standpoint of I want to find guys and girls that I like to hang out with and just have commonality in life. Yeah. And then you're going to find out, okay, well, now do we write great songs together? Can we go play a couple shows together or whatever that may be? Let the business side start to happen after the friendship's established. Nowadays, I feel like that with the way that social media is, and you see evidence of this where there's a lot of artists that are having success that doesn't even live in Nashville. They are sort of having these viral moments on TikTok, and then from that, they're getting record deals and then moving to Nashville. And so it's a little bit of a different game, I think, than the times that when I first moved to Nashville. But I still think that at the end of the day, networking and meeting people that are on the same level as you and rising together is the best thing you can do in your career, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I think in any industry too, it goes like networking is huge, right?
Yeah.
And linking arms with other people and rising together, like you said. So, I want to have a little fun here, like talking about your fans,
Okay.
Because I'm sure your fan base has really grown from these moments that we were talking about, like at the beginning when you first came to Nashville, to then now it's about to, like we were saying, put gas on the fire a little bit here with this new show coming out. So what's it like being on tour and seeing your fans sing along to your songs and just like feel an emotion from the words that you've created, and now you're singing it to the world.
It's why we do what we do. I mean, it's for me, I love all aspects of music, but performing live to fans is the ultimate reason of why I do this. It's never really sort of been about me or money or, fame.
Mm-hmm.
I like when my music touches their lives personally. And I am the soundtrack to their daily lives. And that to me is the ultimate goal in this whole thing. And so, yeah, it's when you see that, it's for me, it's very gratifying and grateful, that I get to be in a position and have the talent and, for fans to want to relate to my music. And so, yeah, I would say it's, an honoring feeling because, if you think about it, a fan can only listen to one song at a time.
Yeah.
And the options of songs are endless in the world. And, the more that time goes on, the more options they have. I mean, how many songs are released a day, now, plus what is already out there. So the fact that they're going to spend 3.5 minutes on your song is pretty special.
I love that. Is there a moment where you have like a really funny fan moment?
I have a funny stage moment.
Okay, let's hear it.
This was several years ago. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, and my buddy Cole was playing. Swindell was playing a show at a golf course, and I happened to be in town. And he said, "Hey man, why don't you come to the show and I'll bring you out for Ain't Worth the Whiskey at the end of the night." And so I remember showing up to the show, and it had rained all day long. And it had just sort of stopped enough for him to perform the show. He gets the end of his set, brings me out for Ain't Worth the Whiskey. I come out during the second verse. And if you've ever seen me perform, I have a lot of energy on stage. And so I run out on this stage like I'm shot out of a cannon.
Oh, no.
And for whatever reason, this is the only stage I've ever seen this. You've been on stages where you've got the stage, and down front you have the subwoofers, like speakers that are in line with the stage. And a lot of times you can sort of step out onto those speakers and get closer to the fans. Well, for whatever reason, this show, the subwoofers were sort of in a D shape. So there was a gap of like 2 or 3 feet, but they met over here on the side and they went out. So there was this gap. So I run out on a dark stage, not being familiar with the stage. It was, wet and slippery. And I'm in the middle of the second verse, and you just see me run out, and I just disappear. And I remember falling in between the subs and the stage, and I remember looking up, and Cole's eyes are about this big around. And I don't know how I did it, but I literally missed one line of the song and jumped back up, finished it.
No.
And it was so embarrassing, but it was also funny as can be. It literally, it was like a magic trick. It was like, you see me, now you don't. And then I was back up again, and it was like nothing ever happened. And we laughed so much about that. I think we even both went on, I know I did, I went on social media begging for videos of it. Because I wanted to watch this, and I don't think a video ever turned up. But yeah, that was one of the only times I'd ever had fallen on stage. But it was... Man, it was an experience.
And you didn't get hurt?
Well, I kind of did, to be honest with you. I remember coming off stage. I had so much adrenaline from it that I didn't feel anything until I got off stage. But I remember my elbow was on fire, and I was like, I hope I'm not bleeding everywhere. I checked myself, and I wasn't. But my ribs were also it felt like I was hit by a baseball bat. And for probably a month, 2 months after that, I had some like severe rib pain. I thought I cracked a rib. Yeah. I don't think I did. But I remember sometimes I would breathe and I could hear like a pop like in it, but I don't know what that was. But yeah, it was not fun. It could have been a lot worse, but yeah, it was it was a little bit worse than just your typical slip and fall.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
You fall down in a hole and then you
Yeah.
get back up.
Yep.
I bet Cole was like, buddy, are you going to get back on stage?
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yes, it was
Oh
wild.
my gosh. Yeah. I mean, you see it all the time though. I mean, it happens quite frequently, maybe not like in a, a hole like that, but you do see it where.
Oh, Luke Bryan falls at
Yeah.
every third show, I think, at this point, so he's fallen 100 times.
And you toured with Luke, didn't you?
I've just done one or two little shows with him. I did an archery trade show with him and played acoustic. But I did my first song that I ever had recorded was by Luke Bryan, a song that me and Cole and Aaron Goodvin wrote together called Out Like That. It was on the Crash My Party album. So that was a pretty special moment for me in my career.
Oh my gosh, I bet. So what makes a great tour from a not so great tour?
I would say the structure of the ins and outs, and whether you're the headliner or you're the opener, for an example. If a lot of my shows that I've done is being the opener. I've been fortunate to be a headliner, but I've done a lot of opening slots, and typically if your headliner is not sort of on the ball with things, their sound check can bleed over into your sound check because they get priority, or the stage isn't big enough where you're playing your show with your equipment set up in front of their equipment, so your stage size is this big compared to what they have, or you may miss a sound check. You may not even get that. And so I would say that, structure and the headliner, making sure that, all their moving parts and obviously, their priority is taken care of so that you do have an opportunity to represent yourself as the opener in the best way possible. Is always been a good thing. And touring with some of my friends, they have been gracious enough to sort of give me elements to their show, like their lighting package that they have. I remember when I did the Dustin Lynch tour, the Party Mode tour with him in 2023, his LD said to me, "Hey man, you have your light towers, I can sync our lights with your lights and give you the full light show," which was something they did not have to do, but that was incredible. It made my show and visually look, a lot bigger than what it was. And so things like that is always really cool to have to kind of, maximize your performance.
Mm-hmm. So you're on the road a lot. No pun intended. Yep. We got the road coming up here, CBS. What can fans expect from you coming up?
Well, the start of the road starts literally this Sunday. That's going to run for about 10 weeks, I believe. I think there's 10 episodes. So we're just honestly going to ride the wave of what this show is going to bring for, the next little bit. I'm working a lot behind the scenes, working on a full album project. I've recorded 7 songs, going to go back in and cut probably 7 more. And like I said, I am sort of prepping for the start of next year.
Yeah.
Not really playing a lot of shows right now. It's all really just kind of sitting back and just kind of watching this whole road thing sort of take off and just sort of seeing what God has in store for all of us, and then sort of evaluating after that what the top of next year looks like for us.
So what do you kind of expect from the road?
I think it's going to be huge. I've been fortunate to watch the premiere twice now, and I can honestly say that when people think of singing competition shows, in my opinion, all of them have a certain look and feel about them. A very polished stage. The artists are singing covers. With this is a whole different perspective, where this show is meant to be more of a docu-series of what it takes to tour and perform out on the road in front of real fans. Mm-hmm. You're playing with a live band every night. You're playing your original music, and you're sort of going to live and die by what the crowd thinks of your performance each night. And that is, in my opinion, the most authentic way that you can do this in a singing competition show. And just the fact that we have Taylor Sheridan involved and Blake Shelton, Blake has tons of knowledge of singing competition shows. Yeah. And then you've got Taylor Sheridan, that everything he touches is gold.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's the perfect storm to be something that is different for fans to really latch on to. And I can honestly say I had never had any ambition to do a singing competition show until this was presented to me. And given the structure and just given the different nature about it, it just felt right in my spirit to go do it. So glad I decided to do it. It was a great experience, and I truly believe that when fans finally get to watch this first episode, they're going to be blown away by with what they see and just the knowledge they're going to gain from all the things that you don't think about. A lot of fans just see our performance, but they don't see the grind of what it takes just for that 30 minutes, 45 minutes on stage. They're going to get a really inside track of what it's like to rehearse with the band and song selection and trying to stay healthy out on the road, making sure you're not getting sick or you're battling, a back injury or whatever that may be. Maybe your back went out and then you're trying to perform through that. So all these things that you have to do to stay hydrated and rested for the grueling grind of being out on the road is going to be very insightful, I believe.
That's interesting you say that, because it is. I mean, when you travel so much and you're performing, you're using your voice all the time, you have to stay so healthy. What's your routine like on the road?
I try to stay in the gym as much as I can when I can find the time. That has always been a focus for me. Trying to get good sleep and hydration. I mean, that is the three main things for me. It's if you aren't drinking enough water, your voice isn't going to hold up. If you're going out and getting drunk every night, by show one or three or four, you're probably not going to be at your best. So it's all about having fun and sort of making it a fun environment, but putting work first and realizing that you're there for a job over fun. Let the fans have fun. Let them go home and be hungover the next day because they don't have to do anything. You have to go back to work, and so it's. I think it's like with anything. You're probably, if you had to go to work the next day, you're probably not going to go out and get hammered. And if you do, you may do it one time, but it's not sustainable to keep doing it.
Right.
So just trying to stay as healthy as and rested as you can.
Have you ever had a learning lesson in that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, in my 20s, one thing that was terrible for me. So when I started touring, I was in a 16 passenger van, and then I graduated up into a Sprinter van, and then we were fortunate enough to buy my first bus, and now we're in a bus. And so back in those Sprinter van days and van days, I would have to drive to these venues, and so the process would go, I would go and open for Cole or whoever it may be, Thomas Rhett. They would want to hang out, till after the show. So you're having a couple beers and you're kind of doing your thing. Well, you still have to drive to the next city, and they get to go sleep in their bunk. And you're tired as can be, trying to get to the next city, running on no sleep. And then having to do it all over again. So just the grind of having to drive yourself and perform and feel like you want to hang out, and be, sort of a likable person and just, like enjoy, the time with them was really, really tough. So thankfully was able to sort of, get past those days where I didn't have to drive. But yeah, I remember 2 or 3 nights of that, and by show 3 or 4, like your voice is just shot, and so that was some very long, hard days.
What keeps you grounded when you're out touring, or just maybe even now before you start really firing back up again?
Well, for me, I have felt like feel like I've been doing this for such a long time, and certainly have had some unbelievable success in my career. I feel like I'm one of the only artists in country music to have never had a record deal, who have had the streaming numbers, the touring opportunities, and the amount of songs recorded by other artists. I'm one of the few that has had that much success. but even with that, there's always sort of been the ceiling for me that I haven't been able to sort of break out through. And so now having be a part of this show, The Road, and some things that we've got sort of teed up, I'm just very grateful to get to do what I love every day, to still be here, to feel like the best years of my career are still yet to come. Yeah. And yeah, I'm just grateful to be in the spot that I'm in. And so every chance I get, I just reflect and just think, man, how far I have come through all these years. I didn't get frustrated and just give it up when there were probably a lot of times that I could. And so, like I said, just for me, I'm living my dream every day and know that there's some big things ahead for me.
What is going to be that moment for you when you really are like, okay, I've made it?
I think for me, it's such a tricky question because you hear, I try to soak up as much knowledge as I can from other artists that have been in my shoes and are further in their career than what I am. And a lot of times you hear to not get caught up in how many number ones you have, how many tickets did you sell, how many buses are you in, because there's always another level. The guy that moves to Nashville wants a publishing deal. The guy that has a publishing deal wants a number one. The guy with one number one wants two number ones. The guy with three number ones wants four number ones. And so it's just like this never-ending cycle that, even if you're as big as, Morgan Wallen, Morgan Wallen is trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to George Strait status? George Strait has 60 number ones, and so there's always these levels. And so I try not to get caught up in, the accolades and that sort of thing. But I do believe that, like, my ultimate goal of moving to Nashville was to be an artist. I can say that I have reached the top of the mountain in the songwriting world by having number ones on the radio. I feel like I'm halfway up the mountain on the artist side for me. And it's kind of as simple as it is. If you were to rattle off, if I were to say, hey, name me 15 country music artists right now, if my name is in one of those 15, I've made it.
Yeah.
I don't look at it from a standpoint of, winning. I used to look at it from a standpoint of, I don't think I've made it till I play the Opry, or I don't think I've made it till I win, Entertainer of the Year, or I sell out Bridgestone Arena, or whatever it may be. I look at it now from a standpoint of I've already made it because there's so many people that would kill to be in the position I'm in. But I think my ultimate make it moment is to just be associated with the stars of our generation. And again, if I say, name me 15 artists, if my name comes in that 15 and comes to your mind, then I've made it.
Well, I mean, according to my Spotify list, you were at the top of, and this is no joke, wow. I can show you my phone right now, and I have Adam Sanders Radio, and it's at the top. I mean, I don't just say this because you're sitting across from me right now. Like, your voice is so unique, and it caught my attention when I heard it it was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and it caught my attention, and I listened to country music since I was, 5 years old, and my family jokes that, I only listen to country music. They're like, can you maybe diversify? I'm like, well, Christian music, worship music, yeah. I listen to that too sometimes, but you start putting Bible and God in your songs and heck, it's all combined.
That's right.
But no, I mean that. And I really wish you just an enormous amount of success. And I really feel like, God's guiding your spirit and you're stepping fully into that. And I mean, even when you walked in today, it was like, this was the same studio that you shot your cover?
Yeah, the cover art for Bible and House Fire was literally in this same building, and the fact that song is out today, and here I am doing a podcast with you in the exact place that I shot the artwork for it is that's the things, you're right, that's the things in life that you can't dream up, you can't manufacture that. That's God and fate and timing. And so I really appreciate you saying that, because I've always felt this hedge of protection over me through my career. I've had so many successful friends of mine in the business sort of look at my career and say, how you have never had a record deal, and you're not one of the biggest stars in country music, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
But what I will say is the version of me today versus the version that I was when I first started is two completely, totally different people. And, I truly believe that, I ran a very high risk of, if I were to have been given all the blessings of what I've always wanted in my career by God, I would have probably abused those things. And I may not have been the greatest human ever. And I think that this whole thing for me was God waiting for me to be ready and prep for these moments. And so I can honestly say that, there is no ego with me when it comes to any of this stuff. There could have been a little bit of that, and probably was some of that when I was in my 20s, and I was 24 and I got 2 songs on the radio, and it's like, man, I got this thing whipped. Like, this is easy, and you kind of have some humble pie, through your career, and I feel like I'm just so incredibly grateful that that I've had the path that I have had. And you're right, there's just been so many things over the last year when I truly surrendered my career and life to God and just sort of said, hey, this is yours. And if all I have ever done is what I've done up to this point in success, that's enough for me. You know my heart, you know where I want to go, but I'm leaving it up to you. And that is when all these things started happening that was out of my control. Yeah. I got a song back on radio with a song called Tough People with Drew Baldridge. I got asked to be on, the road. I'm hopefully having Drew's next single on country radio next month. All these things that are just happening that are, again, you just can't manufacture that. It only can come from one place. And so I'm just very grateful for that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, Adam, it's been such a pleasure sitting down here and having a conversation with you. And like I said, I wish you just an enormous amount of success and God's blessing over your career, this new single, all the new album coming out when that does, and over the road and everything. So I wish you the most success.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and congrats to you too for all the things that you have done. And this was very fun. We got to do this again.
Thanks for tuning in to Talk Y'all to Me. If this episode encouraged you or reminded you of your calling, share it with someone who needs that same reminder today. Hit the follow button to subscribe so you don't miss what's next, and come hang out with me on social at official Tori Kruse. Keep shining, stay faithful, and keep talking, y'all.